Well, now that voters have legalized marijuana, state leaders and those on both sides of the issue are working to make policy that makes sense for everyone.
10 TV political reporter Doug Petcash is live in studio with what they're focusing on. Doug?
Well, guys, Lieutenant Governor John Husted says guardrails need to be set up to keep things from getting out of hand. While the details of any new policies and regulations are not settled or clear, the areas of focus are.
One thing the polling showed very clearly, younger voters overwhelmingly were in favor of this. They don't see why this is even an issue.
University of Cincinnati political science professor David Niven says a culture shift played a role in legalizing marijuana in Ohio. Now, state leaders have to deal with that shift and enact policies that, in the governor's words, make sense for everyone.
There's probably some really interesting ways of thinking about it with respect to public safety. Certainly that can be addressed of how they're going to police the use.
Public safety is top of mind. Governor DeWine says he asked the legislature to zero in on 3 goals: make sure children are protected from advertising, limit accidental exposure through edibles, and protect people on the roads against those who might drive high. Lieutenant Governor John Husted echoed that in a statement released Thursday. He said, "We have a responsibility to establish some policy guardrails to prevent this new experiment from getting out of hand. And it's essential to recognize that even though recreational marijuana is legal, many jobs will still require workers to pass a drug test." Ohio Chamber of Commerce President Steve Stivers says they want to make sure there are no unintended consequences for businesses.
Issue 2 for sure has impact to employers, people involved in workforce.
The group behind Issue 2, the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, says regulations in surrounding states protect children from accidental exposure and advertising.
So you can ensure that they're not advertised in a way that's attractive to minors.
Douglas Berman, a law professor and executive director of the Ohio State University Drug Enforcement and Policy Center, says the key to creating good policy is collaboration.
We got a direct indication from the people of the state of Ohio. This is something we want to move from prohibition into a regulated, legalized marketplace. Now there's a lot of details to still work on, but those details shouldn't be sorted out just by the people who are in favor of it. The folks who are opposed should be able not only to express their worries, but play an integral role in working the regulations forward.
And Berman says other states that legalized marijuana have shown that as regulations are rolled out, more and more people support it because they recognize some of their fears weren't met. That is, as long as the state has done a good job addressing key concerns. This Sunday morning at 11:30 on Face the State, our political analysts discuss what put issues 1 and 2 over the top on Election Day and how much lawmakers can change them. Andrew?
All right, Doug, thanks so much. Developing